Hey everyone, RogueGold here. Welcome back to the Division 2. And today, I'm about a week late to the game, but I want to talk about the Sheriff, the new exotic shotgun that we just got from this season's finale. I have been looking forward to this thing all season. I'm a big fan of this kind of archetype of weapon, the more marksman, precise shotgun. And while this thing can be fun, very fun, as we're going to take a look at, I also want to discuss some of the areas that I think hinder its potential and its fun. A word that you'll hear me return a lot to in this video is friction. I think the Sheriff just has a few too many friction points to where you start to feel those within the gameplay and the combat. Now, do I hope that some of those things get addressed down the line to make the Sheriff even more reliable? Absolutely. Yeah. Do I think they actually will get addressed? We'll talk about it. But I'm excited to get into this one. Thank you all for your patience on me getting this video out. And yeah, if you enjoyed this one and you want to see more on the Division 2 from myself, then you know what to do. Be sure to subscribe. A big shout out and thank you to all of our channel members. It is your support that allows me to continue to be able to make videos like these, which I appreciate so much. So thank you. Without further ado, though, let's dive into it. Alright, so this is the Sheriff. I figured I would cover it here at the start in case anybody is curious. The way that you acquire this new exotic shotgun is through the Climax mission that just released for this season. In case you don't know, that is the one down here at the Ironworks Foundry. You're going to have to go into your manhunt and complete each of the 3 HVT scouts to gain access to the mission. Once it is unlocked, the gun has a chance to drop as a completion reward to any of the difficulties that you may play the mission on. However, if you're able to take on Master difficulty, it will be a guaranteed drop on your first completion. Getting back to the gun though, the flavor text says it's about to get real, and this is the skin for it right here. I personally very much like the look of the Sheriff. I know it's drawn some controversy around the community, but I just think it looks like a very cool modified shotgun with the magazine. It's got the bayonet on the front with the knife, which I think fits in perfectly. It did also come with an exotic skin that released in the store that I've been running. I don't even know how you pronounce that, but there you go. It turns it into a chain look with all this blood draped around it, and it's like special effect is that enemies gush way more blood when you hit them, which I think looks quite cool. But anywho, that is the looks. You can of course put any role on the third attribute that you want, but the talent down here is called Autentico. It reads plus 35% weapon damage, plus 100% accuracy, no damage drop off. These bonuses are built into the weapon's base stats. But that is it. There is no kind of active buff involved with the talent here. The gun has no other mods, as you can see. What it is what you get, and you then have to take it, slot it into a build, and see what you can make happen. Now, when we first learned that we were getting this exotic this season, I was quite excited. I've been a big fan of this archetype of weapon in games for quite a long time. Immediately, my memory flashes back to the Chaperone in Destiny 1, if you ever played that game. I loved that weapon in PvP. The kind of highly accurate slug shotgun fantasy is one that I've always enjoyed playing, so I was looking forward to seeing how the Sheriff performed in that category. And while it is potent, and it is very fun, the one word that I keep coming back to, as I mentioned in the intro, is friction. I just think that it has a little bit too much working against it to really shine where I think it could. To demonstrate some of this for you though, I can take us into the range where we can, again, take a look at some of these things in action. So if I zoom in on this target, you'll see that very quickly the reticle tightens in there, and that is that accuracy going to work. We'll take a look at the build in a little bit, but you'll see that I can hit those headshots pretty consistently for a target that's at 10 meters. And then thanks to the accuracy and the no damage drop off, you know, if I aim at somebody who's a lot further away, it can still take them out very reliably. The first thing I want to note with this entire gun though, something you might notice if you pick it up and start using it for yourself, is that when you go into cover, that extra accuracy bonus does not apply. Again, out of cover, it starts wide but tightens in. That doesn't work when you go into cover. See? It just stays like that. This is a known bug. It's posted over on the known issues board. I will say it is a bit frustrating to see this bug still persisting because this is actually something that was present back on the PTS in December or November. It might have been at that point. Yeah, this is there then. It got reported. Unfortunately, it still has not been fixed. And while I don't think this is the primary problem that I will highlight with the gun here, it is just another point of friction, right? Another thing that is making it slightly less seamless and smooth to make this gun work as I think it should. Another thing that I believe contributes to the friction of using this weapon is the way that the bloom handle. So once again, we took a look at how tight the accuracy becomes once it zooms in there. The problem though is that anytime you go to move your character, once it's already tightened in like this, that bloom goes right back out to the maximum, as you can see. Then once you stop moving, it of course tightens back in, but I just think you lose so much by it blooming all the way back out as soon as any movement is done. Now, it's a very real chance that the devs took a look at this and did not intentionally make it any better, because perhaps that would make the weapon a bit too strong, especially in PvP, and I can respect that. I totally can. However, in my mind, I feel as though it would have been a pretty good idea to do it so that the bloom, while not staying pinpoint accurate the entire time, maybe just had a less drastic bloom increase once you start moving, because this amount that you're seeing right here is what you get on any shotgun. However, any other shotgun does not perform the way that the Sheriff does. It's not designed as the same type of weapon. This is meant to be something that you have a lot of accuracy with, that you're trying to have a high level of marksmanship with when you're aiming at a target. And so at least for the way that I play, having the bloom go out so wide so consistently, it has been a barrier to me in having as much enjoyment with this weapon as I wish I was having. The final thing then comes down to the actual model of the gun itself. The Sheriff is based off of a Super 90, which if you look at the total class of shotguns that we have in the Division 2, the Super 90 is one of the more spam-oriented shotguns, right? It has lower base damage compared to something like an M870 or the Spaz 12, and because of that, that means that it is intended to be kind of a pretty consistently firing gun. Now, it is good that that bloom stays very tight while you are shooting, but once again, if I'm comparing this to something like the Chaperone in Destiny, which I'm sure was not their direct inspiration, so that's probably an unfair comparison, but it just makes it so that this weapon doesn't quite have that punch and that level of marksmanship that I would hope for a gun like this. Once again, maybe they took a look at the shotgun roster, they tried out the idea of the Sheriff with something that had higher base damage like the M870, and they said, this is way too powerful. If that was the case, I totally respect that. But again, sometimes while using this, I've just found myself going, man, I wish this thing just had a little bit more punch to it, even though I'm buffing it up as much as I can with my build. And to be fair, this is no big surprise, right? We've had access to this weapon ever since November with the PTS. Had I had more time to use this back then, maybe I would have identified that as something that is a bit of an annoyance to me earlier on. But yeah, at the end of the day, I do just think that this archetype they're going for and the Super 90 as a weapon don't have as much synergy as I might like. So that's another area that I've identified. That all being said, I do not want this video to come across as me just bashing the Sheriff. I have had a lot of fun with this thing so far. I do think it has its place within the overall endgame and build landscape. This is the build that I have more or less settled on. With it, I did try a lot of different builds. That was part of the reason this video got delayed by a day or so. I initially wanted to try out a bit more of an action-based Hunter's Fury loadout with the Memento. I tried a high-end build using the spot-on holster for even more accuracy. Ultimately, I landed on this as feeling the best overall. Now, this is not a revolutionary build. This, I think, is the most standard format of the Headhunter's Fury sort of loadout that often you will see people use for pistols, like the Regulus. It's a fun build. You get the sustain benefits of Hunter's Fury with the disorient for nearby enemies, as well as the armor on kill, but then you also get the damage of Headhunter. Often you spec everything into headshot damage, which is what I'm doing here. And so for the same reasons that this works well for weapons like the Regulus is why it works well for the Sheriff. You got high accuracy, you've got high damage, and so leaning into headshots with this does work quite well. Because it is a shotgun by nature in terms of how it fires its pellets, and because of all the reasons that we went over in the last section, it's not perfect. You'll come across times where you think you're gonna hit a headshot and get Headhunter, and it just doesn't work. But even taking this into higher difficulty content like Master, like Legendary, you will see that you are outputting a solid amount of damage. Once again, you'll run into those friction points like trying to use the talent within cover, or that the bloom goes crazy as soon as you move. You do have to kind of be conscious of those things and work around it. But when you find that flow, the Sheriff does become very fun. You can't deny that. So while it has its faults, and while I hope that they still give it some attention down the line to really refine those areas, there is still a lot of fun to be had here, and I hope that at least some of you have been able to find that. Alright, well, there you have it, everybody. That is my review, rundown, and just general thoughts on the new Sheriff exotic shotgun, a weapon that I've very much been anticipating all season, and it's finally here. Did it live up to the hype? In some areas, but as we took a look at, I do think it has certain shortcomings in others. All in all, it is still a fun exotic to add to our collection, but it maybe doesn't quite have the seamlessness or smoothness that I'd hoped. But at this point, you've heard me ramble on about this thing. I would love to get all of your thoughts on this. If you have gone out and picked up the Sheriff already, what do you think about its performance? Did it live up to your expectations? Or in what areas would you want to see it improve in the future? That's about all I've got for this one though, folks. Thank you all very much for coming by and watching. I will see you back soon, but until then, RogueGold. Ow. Oh! We just got a Ravenous! I might not be friendly. Let's go.
Coming to the Division 2.
Let's go!
And